Days to look at film. What does Andy Dalton bring to the table for this Sunday?
Experience. The good thing about it, we got a gentleman on our staff who drafted him, knows him very well. We played against Andy actually 2 years ago as well with New Orleans. So there's some familiarity with us. Obviously, what are they going to do scheme-wise just in a couple of days? He's a vet. I'm sure there's not too much they can't throw at him and ask him to do. But I do expect him to, be a little bit more efficient. I don't think on third down is what their issues were. But looking at guys' experience that knows how to move the ball, move the chains, and somehow, some way, when he gets on the field, he makes plays. So we got to be savvy and smart there.
A lot of times we ask you about the young guys, and you say it's just a matter of when it clicks. I'm sure you expected that sooner rather than later with Brock, being that he was a first-round pick. But when did you realize that he was really going to be able to have as big of an impact as he's had on this offense so far?
Yeah, the day he walked in that door. We knew he was getting a blue chipper. He did it day one at Georgia when he walked on campus, and he did it each and every game, each and every year. And he got here in rookie minicamp, and you just, okay, we don't got pads on, and then we put pads on training camp, and it was like, all right, and we slowed him down a little bit because he was pushing himself. And to be honest, we knew what we got, just didn't want to speak on it until you did it. Now it's out there, and there's no hiding it. He's a really good football player. He's tough. He loves the game. He doesn't care how he looks, how he talks. He just wants to play ball, and that fits our mentality.
You talked a lot about starting fast record-wise. Crosby talks a lot about stacking wins. You have 2 straight home games. Is there an opportunity now, do you think, to bring that to fruition and make that happen?
Well, we're just excited to be back home. Training camp, we're away. Preseason first game, we're away. First 2 home, first 2 games in the regular season, we're away. This is a great opportunity for us to come home in front of our family, friends, the fans, Raider Nation, the Black Hole. We're just, to be honest, we're excited. Our guys are extremely excited about this opportunity. We feel like we're going to have a great showing, and we need to put up a great show.
So just to piggyback off of Case's question about Brock, you see his work ethic and what he did on the field. You talked the other day about him growing, but when you're in meetings or he's in film, his IQ, was it there? Did it come? Is that still growing? Where's that at as far as what you're impressed with?
Well, I think you really saw that. Go back to Minnesota, the first preseason game. He was lining the ball all over the place. He was at wide receiver. He was in the slot. He was at tight end. He was on the line tight end. He was in the backfield at fullback, and that was early on. Now, fast forward to about a month and a half, from that standpoint, now he's doing a great job just understanding now, just not what we want to do offensively, but I think also what the defense is doing. And I think as we start getting into this bad boy even more, I think he'll understand how teams are going to try to take us away, right? Every week we worry about Devontae getting cloud coverage, right? You got 2 over 1 on him. So I think it's just critical that, with Lou Steckel and Lou Getsy, they do a great job of just getting him to understand pro football and what comes with success, right? People will now look at you differently. So I think just how he handles that, but he's very, very smart individual, and obviously, like I said, he's a football player, man. It comes very easy to him, and he's natural on the grass.
Michael Mayer is another tight end, obviously, that got a lot done in college. I know you guys are still putting it together offensively, but it feels like there's still room for him to be a huge part of this.
All of them. Listen, just the way it worked out last week, you got, 2 players with 9+ receptions, and they had the hot hand. I don't know who's going to be this week. You hope each and every week somebody else steps up, right? We hope the running game, first and foremost, steps up this week. We start there. Then Jacoby, then Trey. We haven't gotten the ball to a lot of our guys, and that starts with us on third down. We got to keep the chains moving. We can't get out on some 3-and-outs. We can't have these negative plays on P and 10s. We just got to do a better job of starting the series. And when that happens, now you can spread the ball out, right? At the end of the day, everybody's not going to walk away with 10 catches and 20 touches. Not going to happen. It might be Mike's game this week, Brock's game that week. Hell, we might run the ball 70 times. I don't know what it's going to do. Whatever it takes to win, I think our guys are willing to do that, and that's what's the most important.
When you have a guy like Gronkowski coming out and saying Bowers can be better than he was as a pass catcher, that's a lot of expectations to put on a kid. Is he the kind of kid that can handle that and embrace that, or is that something you want to? I
just think that's a hell of a compliment. To be honest, I think we'll just leave it at that. He's got a long way to go. It's 2 games. He's a good football player, and I think the best thing about Brock, he's so humble. He's just humble, right? He just, again, I don't know if you get a chance to talk to him today. You can probably not, but he's not going to say much. So we're just going to play football.
You mentioned the run game, and we talked about it quite a bit, getting it going. Is there going to be a heavy emphasis this week to try to do that multiple different ways?
Yeah, when I come up here, when I say it, I'm not just talking coaching cliche. We need to run the ball. It needs to be balanced. Right now we haven't been balanced, and that's really tough on our offensive line. It's tough on our quarterback because guys are just teeing off there in 3-point track stances, just running laps around our guys. That's not how we want to play football, nor that's how we want it to look. So I think it's really critical that I think first and foremost, if there's a negative play, you just got to stick with it, right? You see teams each and every time, right? You just keep pounding away, then come to fourth quarter, you break one. I look at the game like this. Look at Zamir's last 3 runs in the game, and hopefully that's what we look like on Sunday.
I guess when I meant emphasis, I meant this week in practice as well.
Oh, yeah, without doubt. Yes, sir. I mean, really, today's Wednesday. Today's our early down day, so we're really, focused on that. But it's not about focus on it. It's what works. We need to get to, what works. We can have all these plays. I can just start throwing darts, too. But what works for the Raiders? What works for Zamir? What works for our offensive line? What are we doing well? Right? Sometimes scheme, players, all that stuff. Let's get to what works well. And I think if we just pull back a little bit, less is more, like I normally say, we can get that done.
Coach, can you take us back to the excitement? Not to say that every game is not as important as excited, but this is your home opener, head coach of the Las Vegas Raiders at the Allegiant Stadium. You're planning to play in front of your fans. How much more excitement is on this game?
Yeah, you can't tell. I'm serious. We're fired up. We're extremely excited about Sunday at 1:00. I'm just waiting to come out there for pregame and just watch that bad boy rock and roll. I know our players are looking forward to it again. I mean, because we look at it like this: we play 2 road games. We go to the Chargers, and we're in LA, and it was a Raider game, right? And then in the fourth quarter in Baltimore, that place got loud. There was a lot of Raider fans there. They traveled. But now we're at home. We're in our beautiful stadium. It's a great opportunity for us to do what we need to do at home, take care of business, and more importantly for our fans to show up like they've been doing wherever we've been, but now do it at our home place.
Coach, one more question regarding the Max Crosby interaction with Gardner Minshew. During the training camp, you talked about how this was a player-ran team. Do you think that had a lot to do with it, and how important it is for players to speak up in those crucial moments? Yeah, I mean, I can go up to Gardner and give him a pep talk too. But it's different when it comes from Max Crosby, right? It's different when it comes from a Robert Spillane. But I think, like I said, that is just showing the togetherness of our team. Everything that we worked on in training camp and the offseason, building that bond, building that closeness with one another. Hey, I got your back, right? Bad play, bad opportunity. Okay, cool, I got you. And that's what our defense has really done a really good job of, not blinking, not flinching. And we're going to get that confidence with our offense. As you can see, we got some really good players there. We just need to do it for 4 quarters. But I think it's really telling when the leaders of our team just step up like that on their own, grab a quarterback, which you don't see much, a defensive player interact with a quarterback after a negative play and have that kind of response.
Did you ever have to do that with Eli?
A couple times. He threw 6 picks in one game against Minnesota. I looked at him and said, we're good. And he looked at me and said, yeah. I said, this dude is good. He's got a poker face all day. I can't even fool with him. But, obviously me and Eli had a lot of conversations as well. But, when you got, when you got alphas like that we do on defense, you expect that. And again, like I said, Max is trying to become the all-time greatest Raider, and he's got more to go. But it's going to start with leadership and him speaking up, because his voice carries a lot of weight. Obviously, his play does everything for us, and his energy. But just to see that and see our guys really hold each other accountable, I think was really critical at a moment for us where we needed it.
Antonio, a lot of talk in the offseason was the Raiders need to go get a cornerback. And Dorian Bennett, I'm sure, heard all of that. But it seems like he's really responded to that challenge. And what are your thoughts on him through the first 2 games?
Man, like I said, you can see it. It was a different look, to be honest, in his eyes when he came back in the spring, in April. Like, okay, he's working hard. You see him, and at the time we had Faison here, and he was backing up Faison, and he just slowly kept chopping wood. And then we got in the preseason. He made that play down in Minnesota on the goal line when he went for it on 4th down. And then just each and every day in practice, even going against Devontae and Jacoby, you can just see the confidence growing. And then I'll be honest, it started again last week against the Chargers. They took a shot at him last week, or just a couple days ago in Baltimore, did the same thing. And what I love about it, he's not panicking. He's playing the ball. He's trusting his speed. He's trusting his technique. And even better, I'm going to go back to what this bad boy is about with us right now, just how our teammates celebrate and encourage him. Right? That just keeps building confidence up. Because, now listen, he gave up some catches too. But he never flinched. You can't worry about that. No corner in the National Football League never gave up a catch. So I think his ability just to respond, play by play. We talk always not being good, being great, and he's really striving for that.
Coach, you brought in Tom and Marvin, I think at last year even. I'm just kind of curious, have there been any cases or examples this year where some of their experience has kind of bled into you and you've applied that in any of the games so far this year?
Yeah, I mean, I thought last week, you was kind of in the same situation. That game almost played out the exact same way as week 1. And Marvin, I went to him about a question about, situational football, 3rd or 4th down, and AP, go with your gut. It's things like that you need. Like, don't worry, last week is last week. How does this game look? And play it accordingly. And I think that's huge for me, because you need that little bit of confidence, right? A lot of times you ask the coach, they'll be like, well, coach, whatever you think, I asked for a reason. Like, man, give me some feedback. And that's what I love about both Coughlin and Marvin. Obviously, Marvin here every day. My phone calls with Coughlin in the morning. But it's just good when you have that strong voice and presence where they don't worry about what I think or say. They give me the honest answer.
Coach, do you plan on leaning on Marvin Lewis a little bit more this week, considering his past with Andy Dalton?
No, because that was some years ago. I think what we could do is really get into the mindset, the psyche of the quarterback. I mean, he's been away from some time. It's really a scouting report at this point. You know, we're still trying to figure out what Carolina's going to do offensively with Andy, which might be different or may not be different than they did with Bryce.
So the offensive line, made a big, blocking scheme change this offseason as well. I know the offense as a whole made a scheme change, but that's not as easy as people went outside may think. Do you think that's factored at all into some of the struggle?
I mean, there's always a learning curve, but this is not about learning. This is not mental. This is just technique and fundamentals, right? This is just, and then a little bit of strain. We just got to do it well enough. We don't have enough runs to even judge our running game off of. It's not even good enough. We're like less than 40 runs. It's not good enough, to be honest. So, we'll hammer that again this week. And then at some point, like you said, you just got to commit to it, right? If it's this week or next week, whenever it comes, you got to commit to the run and stay with it and trust it. And again, I don't care what running back you are or who you are. Most of these guys tell you around what, they're 15, 20 carry to get going, right? So we got to get our guy there, right? He hasn't even hit 10 plus carries yet. It's hard to get a rhythm when you don't touch the ball.
We always talk about the opponent, but how much of this is about the Raiders and not the team that's coming in?
To be honest, every week is about that. Now, there might be an individual like last week. I'm talking about Lamar Jackson. We got to talk about him for some time. But this one is strictly about, the Raiders and Raider Nation, because we're coming home. Obviously a big victory, emotional victory, but how do we follow that up, man? How do we handle success, right? And I always said, you asked me, a couple of you gentlemen asked me, and what do I want this to look like? I want to be consistent each and every week. I don't want to ride this roller coaster, So I want to come home and I want to see our team be consistent, play at the same level with effort, discipline, the passion that you guys see. And then now we need to play 4 quarters. We haven't done that yet. We played a half. We played, the 4th quarter. I asked him, can we just do it for 4 quarters? Let's see what that looked like in front of our home crowd.
So with that being said, does part of the message today during walkthrough or maybe Monday is that quite possibly last week's Raiders or this week's Panthers, nobody gave the Raiders a shot, nobody's giving the Panthers a shot. Keep that in mind when they take the field this week.
Yeah, we all look at the standings each and every week, and there's shockers each and every week. I know last week it was us, right? And we don't want to be on that headline. At the end of the day, the only thing we can worry about and control is us. And we need to do a better job of being detailed, and that's what we're doing. That's what we're talking about this week is attention to details. We got enough film, 122 snaps on offense, 123 on defense, almost 50 on special teams. We got enough film to grade and fix all those little miscues. We're not reinventing the wheel this week, right? We're running our stuff, and at some point you got to do the little things right more than the other team.
In terms of the offensive line, it seemed like the first 3 halves there were some communication breakdowns that might have led to some of the protection issues. It seemed like they got that figured out in the second half in Baltimore. Is that something that you worked with them that they talked about at halftime, or what did you see in that area?
That was a problem. Communication was a major problem, and then we made another change. So we made a change of guard as well, and that kind of helped us with the communication.
Antonio, how deep was your exhale when you saw Max down on the second to last snap, and then he was able to get up, and then how is his ankle today?
Yeah, I mean, we're all battered and bruised. That was a physical game. But knowing Max, and you saw what he went through last year, I mean, I don't put nothing past him. We'll slow it down today and see how the week goes.
Coach, since you played the position, was kind of curious your thoughts about Diablo and it's just pure weight and size over the course of 17 games. Do you think size-wise he'll be able to, just the entire season if it's size?
He's 230. He's a big boy now. He's 230. So it ain't size. It's just, with Diablo, just being consistent. Pad level, football position. We talked about it, just being consistent in that. When you're a taller linebacker, you tend to always stand up because you want to see over everybody. And you got to drop, you got to bend your knees, man. You got to strike. And we talked about that. He's got to bring his feet on tackles. All the things that we discuss each and every week, and I'm sure you guys see on film. But I think with Diablo, I'm not worried about the weight. It's just really more mentally and just doing it consistently and being that guy because there's so much good that he puts on film. It's just the negatives are, they're a little glaring at times because they're in open field and space.
Let's do 2 more up front here and then Q.
Rob Spillane had the big turnover on Sunday. I know you've got a lot of things going through your mind on a game day on the sideline, but how fun is that just to see him fly around and make plays and pick up where he left off last year? Yeah, because I go back to when we signed him. The one negative was that he was horrible in pass coverage. And I think that's now his 4th interception for the Raiders, right? So he's done a hell of a job, man. First and foremost, just the leader, a bell cow for our team, blue collar. Whatever we get from Max, we get at the second level from Spillane.
And he's just one of those guys, man. He plays every snap, balls to the wall. I mean, he's flying around. He's physical. He's thrown up on the sideline. His face is all red. I'm like, God damn, he's an old school true linebacker. You love it. It's good to watch a good linebacker play. And obviously, I'm glad that he's on our team.
Through 2 games, only 5 penalties have been accepted against you. How proud are you that your team is able to play as physical as they are and disciplined?
Yeah, I think that's, credit, to our staff, to our players buying in, just going to our individual periods, taking it in. We talked about that with Baltimore. They were a highly penalized team. We didn't want to be that team. We couldn't beat ourselves. And I think, just even from the week before, having composure at the end of the game, right? There was a little chippiness out there as well. And just not being that team, not beating ourselves. And I tell them, if we stop the turnovers, the penalties, and we get off to a fast start, what does this team really look like? Hopefully we see it this weekend.
Okay.
Thank you.